This is Big Ideas Welcome, Season 3. We're pairing business legends and ambitious founders to dig deep into the big ideas, successes, failures, and lessons learned. I'm Chris McAdoo, and I'm excited to introduce you to a couple exceptional graduates of the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center's 100 Knoxville program. First up is Jonathan Clark, also known as Courageous Poet. Now, he's actually our guest host for today's episode, and he's joined by Deahna Moore. Jonathan is a multidisciplinary artist, an activist, and CEO and founder of Artificial Intelligence, a Knoxville native, a UT alum, and community leader, formerly a member of the Mayor's Maker Council for the Maker City. Deahna Moore is the force behind Budgets by Joy. She's got 17 years of corporate accounting experience and a deep passion for financial empowerment. She discusses the challenges and triumphs of teaching financial strategies that cater to individual needs and community strengths. This episode is all about turning tough questions and tough money conversations into practical, as Deahna calls it, save like a CEO strategies for lasting financial stability and generational wealth. Let's get to work.
So I'm really interested in hearing how you got started with Budgets by Joy. And so for me, money is a hard subject to talk about. So it's kind of, this isn't going to be like a therapy session, I hope, but money is a hard thing for me to talk about. And I think that happens in like our community, because money, like there's this mindset of kind of scarcity, and there's a mindset of some people have it and some people don't. And it's really hard to talk about.
Sure.
So is that something you encounter a lot too?
I encounter very often.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like I deal with it on the generational issue too.
Yeah.
Because I've had literally, I feel like from one spectrum to another at this point. So I started out helping out Budgets by Joy with young professionals. It was really intentional for my roommate. Because she was scrolling already and she wasn't listening to my advice. So I gave it to her in the point of view she could understand.
How is that?
We don't communicate now, but
Okay.
But it was very much a learning situation.
Yeah.
They tell you not to room with everybody. And I had to learn that hard way.
Been there before. Once or twice.
Yes. So that's how it started. Budgets by Joy. But I always have had joy a part of all my social media.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in Orbit, which is geared towards young professionals in high school.
Oh,
so I was pretty much in the business track in Oak Ridge.
Okay.
And so we did online marketing, and that was literally our class
What
in
year
high
is
school.
this?
2010. Yeah, I graduated in 11.
Okay.
So this was my junior year, and so that's how I got my co-op jobs. All things I did all things. So I've always been business oriented, I would absolutely say. But I realized my teacher actually gave me the advice of like making sure how we put ourselves out there in social media is how we're going to be presented forever.
Oh,
and
that's a big lesson, I think, for you.
Yes, especially because we were in the era of Snapchat and all the things. So quite literally, you cannot find me by my first name on anything but Facebook and LinkedIn. So that is quite literally how I've truly like prepared my social media for this element. And so when it came to Budgets by Joy, it was just another way of showcasing my middle name, which is Joy. And my mom made sure I was unique as a whole. Yeah. So it was Joy with an I, not a Y.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it started, was really for my own friends and family to pretty much give advice I was constantly giving on repeat. And so from budgeting, I went into college with a budget because my dad was not about to give me this money on a whim.
Yeah.
I'm the baby.
So you didn't have any student loans?
Correct. Yes. I graduated debt-free from college.
That's a dream.
Because of scholarships and literally making sure my dad was a stickler and in our family business.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So there's the generational aspect.
Absolutely. I will definitely say I'm second generation.
And that's okay. I mean, and that's honestly literally how it should be.
Yes.
I feel like that's how it should be in just about every community.
Yes.
So
but to remind our parents of that is always the fun part where like you created this monster. Like, remember this.
When you get tired of it, remember you did it.
Exactly. Because I'm right now in the midst of like trying to tell my mom like, she doesn't want to retire. She doesn't want to stop doing things. So I'm like, okay, so just pivot. It's time to pivot. It's like we're in a zone of like we can always keep doing what we're doing, but there's another way of doing it now.
And put a toe over here and see how it feels first. You don't have to jump all the way in.
Yes.
Just try it out. See how it feels.
Quite literally.
So you did that, and then you went into the corporate account.
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay. I was about to ask how your experience with that was.
I did it because I was guided to, I would say.
Okay.
I did internships literally every summer. Every time I saw opportunity, I was jumping to it. So I was working on campus at my HBCU.
Which one?
Tennessee State University in Nashville.
TSU, okay.
Yeah. And so I actually worked in the scholarship and donation office. So quite literally my eggs and butter. Yeah.
That's what you were there for.
Yes. But I started there as pretty much, it was a co-op situation. So it went towards my tuition. So yeah, it was one of those things like I was always trying to find a way to help out my family at the end of the day, because I couldn't call home for just like random things because my dad was like, where's your budget? That would always be the case. Like, where'd the money go where I sent you last time? So
and see, like for me, I've always been like fiercely like independent. It's like I could have been. I remember I always worked. At one point I was working Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and going to school on Tuesday, Thursdays. So I had a full-time job while going to school, which was great at tax time, but it was just the money I needed to survive.
That was
I don't want to do that.
And that was kind of one of those things that was preached to me was my job was school. And so I was supposed to have the good grades. I had no reason not to have good grades.
My grades
suffered.
things.
I'm human. Right. I didn't say it was like a great opportunity right out the gate, but it was a learning curve too, because I came from Oak Ridge, which was I went to school half day and I went to work the other half day. So I was already in that sense of kind of working, and then going full-time school was kind of like, I didn't want to do it. And then my freshman classes were almost too easy when I came in that I showed up for a couple classes just for the test. Yeah. I didn't need to go to your actual classes, so I slept in. So like I said, my grades were not perfect.
Yeah, mine have never been perfect.
Attendance is a thing.
Yep, that is true.
Yes.
I remember I missed a test one time. Yeah. And I was like, I had an A in this class going all the way through, and I missed a test. Oh, dear. And I got a really low C, begging to not get a D and had to take it again.
That was absolutely the thing. Well, with my accounting, you couldn't have a D. So like that was no longer, not even an option on my transcript at all.
Med school. You can't really mess up with people's account. You can't mess up people's numbers. You can't mess up people's health and
exactly.
You have to be there. But that's one thing I think of. I was always, for me, when I was younger, it was always like not being pigeonholed into like one thing. Yes. So I never wanted to be stuck. Like if like for you, it feels like you benefited from like having a goal and sticking to it, and then this might not be the thing, but you can pivot, right?
Exactly.
And for me, I was always trying to pivot. Like I would have gotten a travel call because I was always trying to pivot and just go all the way, do something different, because I didn't want to be known for just this. I didn't want to be known just for that. I was always trying to move around and diversify, like what I was learning and who I was hanging out with. My friends are skewed of all. Everything, because I could just be in so many different groups and circles and talk about so many different things. But then it was like, there's not really like a one that sticks around and stays. Like there's a loneliness in kind of being all that. So you had that idea, you got to go forward and kind of be able to pivot to do what you wanted to do, but you still had that goal in mind.
And then also I would say I grew up with friends that also were similar to me. So other entrepreneur parentals in the mix. And I guess we really didn't realize how much we overlapped until recently, until like, we've been freelance for a long time now. Like we can really just do content days together and certain things like that. So I have like truly long-term friends I've had since middle school, elementary school, because they've seen literally everything. They even come to work for my parents at some point. So
that's fun.
Yeah. And then the spinning point for me, I would say probably when I realized I could do 2 part-time jobs at one time, and I don't have to, like, I don't need to be stuck with one company. And that was one of those moments where I'm like, okay, I call myself freelance, but this isn't freelance just yet. So I literally was like 3 days of the week I was at one somebody's office, and another 2 days a week I was at somebody else's office.
That's
And that's when I realized I like the smaller businesses,
Yeah.
so the family oriented
Yeah.
and those type of things where I want to see the full circuit of it all.
Right.
I want to help out the full goal, not just one piece of the puzzle.
That's perfect. I mean, it just feels like, because for me, that's why I'm not wanting to be pigeonholed and not being stuck in one thing, but then also like being able to see when you can find that connection from two different places and the goals and like the places that you want to see how things work. Like when you think about family, when you can see how to approach it from two different angles and 3 and 4 or 5 different angles, that's kind of amazing for me to be able to harness it and to be able to find the connections and the goals that you want to follow from different perspectives.
Yes. And that's also where I've kind of come into that same question you asked me from the beginning, was that generational thing, because I come in, and sometimes I come in just for maternity leave for somebody. And I come in and see like, oh, y'all could do this, y'all could do that, and make things better. And so when the person comes back, I've literally organized things. I will have gotten SOPs in order. Like there's things like I've cleaned up because I came in. And so I enjoyed the contract jobs because I realized like that's my expertise.
Okay. So your brain works to kind of synthesize.
Yeah.
And that's for me, my brain is like, I see this big picture, a big idea, and I want to go find a way to get there. And you're the person that kind of says, here's the map.
And the resources along the way, because I can't do it all, but you're going to meet this person and that person.
You can lead a horse to water.
Yes. And that was the other part. Like I knew I'd never want to do taxes.
I was actually going to ask you that. It's like, so accounting,
I did. I actually did. I learned by going into firms. Okay. So I did
like intern or like
no, I both. I did internships at a CPA firm, and then I also did like right out of college. I went into a smaller, it was off Music Row. So it was really, so I got a whole other element of what small business is in a very large industry,
right? And
it was a whole other piece of the puzzle that I absolutely loved.
That's cool. It just seeing how those like smaller businesses compete in those places. Because I always wonder, especially like with trying to start my own business and like competing with people who can do this, there's kind of that imposter kind of syndrome that pops up with, I feel like every small business and entrepreneur, like I'm not supposed to be doing this. And then you meet a lot of people and you're like, they're just winging it out. They don't know what they're doing. And for me, it feels like these people who do have like they are operating small businesses. They're more, you've got to find the right person. I guess it's like finding a therapist or a personal trainer or something. You find the person that works for you, but when that person works, like everything clicks. And when you have, even like going to school, I wish I'd gone to a smaller school. I went to University of Tennessee, where my first class was 304 people. Like that was our attendance. But I learned a lot, but I had to get it on my own. So even with smaller businesses, you have more of an approach. And I think sometimes the price being a little higher, price point being a little higher with a smaller business, sure, but it's tailored to you and it's what you need, as opposed to the one size fits all approach for everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually, that gets me thinking a lot.
Hi everyone, my name is Kelsey Walker. I'm the Communications Director for the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center. Led by Candace Troutman, 100 Knoxville is helping build a thriving community by accelerating the growth of Black-owned businesses through the deliberate investment of assistance, mentorship, and capital. 5-week cohort programs built for all levels of businesses. Inspired and supported by mentors, corporate partners, and the KAC community. Learn more and lend your support at 100knoxville.com.
I just want to, so now I want to hear about a little bit about the way that you've started to budget like for families. Because I just had a daughter, and my family's growing and thank you. Her name's Charlotte, and she's the cutest thing that ever existed.
I believe it.
But I'm really trying to figure out, I'm thinking about like schools, and she's almost 5 months old. So it's
the cute stage.
Right. Now I'm trying to think about the ideas like going forward, like paying for college. I want to be like your dad. I want to be able to have the college set up and do all those kind of things. So tell me a little bit about how you change your approach for families, like budgets. You think about budgets and wanting to go buy all the things and be able to retire and do it. But a lot of people are focused on making sure families are healthy. And that specifically, like with our community, being able to make sure that families are taken care of in 30 years, 40 years. There's a difference in just planning for retirement and learning, being able to travel to Belize whenever you feel like it, which that's going to happen one day, but that's not the ultimate goal.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about how you tailored things to make that your, like, the bread and butter.
Yeah. So I will say that's one thing that I learned from my parents is not everybody's goal is going to be the same,
Right.
and make sure it's tailored to what your goals are and not somebody else's.
Okay. So that's the approach, is really
Yes.
starting there.
Yeah. And so I always want to organically try to figure out, what are your goals? Where do you want to send your daughter to college? Where are those elements of, like, long term when you think about it? Like, do you want her to stay in state? Do you want her to be able to say, like, she can go anywhere she wants to?
Yeah.
Those are the points of, like, I want to know, like, the most raw element of, like, your actual goal of, like, even what generational wealth is.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's definition will be different. For me, I know mine to the T, because I told my mom at 17 I'm retiring at 45, and I'm not. Yeah, I've literally not taken my gas off that pedal.
You
since
got to
then.
do it.
So yeah.
I just got to see my aunt and uncle out in O'Fallon, like in that area out there outside St. Louis, and that's what they did. They're retired, and now they want to talk about the TV shows, but they were very intentional about making sure that they had their kids taken care of. Everybody got educated. Everybody's doing well on their own. My cousin is now, like, one of the premier business owners in Chicago. Like, it's just cool to watch and see how it all happened.
Yeah.
But that's really what I would love to see, like, for my family. But it gets me thinking about, like, when I did the 100 Knocks program with Candace.
Yeah.
And, like, Candace asked me, it floored me for a few days, because Candace asked me, like, what do you want your legacy to be? And I had never thought about it. I had never thought about what I wanted to leave behind, what I wanted to be known for. I'd always, and like I was talking about earlier, like, I didn't want to be pigeonholed for anything. It's like, man, you can, this guy, he did everything. He what did he focus on? Well, nothing, but he did everything. And that's, people always, like, I had a friend who was asking, like, what don't you do? And I was like, pick a path and stick to it. That's basically all I can tell you. It's like a tree growing. There's always something happening, but I've never kind of picked a path and stuck to things. Like, even now as an entrepreneur, like a serial entrepreneurial approach to a lot of things.
I can definitely relate. I felt like I also watched my parents do the same thing.
Yeah.
So, like, network marketing, Amway, that's literally my dad. Like, I watched back in the day him going door to door type of thing. So I watched every element of, like, the development steps of, like, entrepreneurship. So, like, old school ways to new school ways to, like, my sister used to have, like, even cards she would give away at, like, high school, but she handmade them. So, like, those are things that, like, she used to sell to people at church or other places. So, like, I've watched every, like, layer to entrepreneurship that you can go on, that I've even, like, gone down the main path myself. So yeah, I've seen it, ugly, bad, financial issues of it all. Yeah. And that's why I always come back to, like, most organic questions are, like, what are your goals when you see retirement? Like, what is that number that you feel comfortable at retirement? That would be, like, my starting steps.
When you ask somebody, like, what their number is, does somebody ever say a number that's either like wildly unachievable or, like, scarce? Like, I want to get $334,000. That's what I wanted.
I see both.
It's like, you're gonna live for 30 years on 300. So you're planning on that. So what do you have any stories like that? Like,
absolutely. Yes. But I will also say the element of seeing, it's a mental thing. When I see the difference is, all right, if you already say, like, you're good off of 2 million, let's go run those numbers. I have an affirmation budget. Like, let's run those numbers and you just plug it in and let's see if you can actually realistically live off of it. Yeah. And then that's how I will, like, literally run it. I'm like, okay, that will last you 5 years. Yeah. Right. What happens after that? So we can be in this fantasy as long as you want.
Do you have a name tag and a vest so you can greet at Walmart later?
Yes. And that's, even when I told my dad, I'm like, so what are you going to do after, like, because my dad retired when I graduated high school.
Okay.
So I have,
Dad.
I have seasoned parents, I would say.
Okay.
They prepared for me, but also the element, my dad was talking stocks. Like, my college funds was in stocks.
I've always been so scared of stocks.
Well, that's the thing. I didn't know what it was when I was in school. And he just told me, like, I thought it was legitimately Home Depot down the road. He was talking about, like, that's where my stock was sitting in. So I'm like, well, the doors are still up, so I'm good. So, but that was never the case. But it was also the fact that, like, my dad didn't give me the full I guess, download that I could have got.
Right.
So like I could have asked more questions I wish I would have asked then to know like things now.
And that's hard because your level of understanding at 16 years old is not where it is at 26 or 36 or 46. Like you're just not there yet.
Yeah.
And I do that. I feel like I do that a lot. Like even with people, I do a lot of work with young people, teaching them things. And even I directed a play at Knoxville Children's Theater.
Nice.
And they were coming back and telling me like, no directors ever talked to us like this before. Like we're actors. And I was like, well, how are you supposed to talk to them? I don't know. So I feel like I'm going to be good at that as a dad.
Yeah.
To just kind of be real and be realistic and to speak to you how somebody out in the world is going to speak to you. But also like, I'm worried if I'll give like the right advice and all that.
No, I get that.
And go in there and tell them you're not going to do this. And I got kicked out of school.
And that's the other part. I feel like you have to be honest with the other side of it all because I used to be a Girl Scout leader. And I did that for 7 years while I was in college.
So you know how to tie knots really good.
I do. But I will not know the name of the knot. I will tell you, like, it will accidentally become something. But yes, I'm an outdoorsy person for sure.
Fun. There's something about just being outdoors and being outside. And that's what I think that's cool to have. That can be part of like your budget. You know what I mean? Like budget time to take for yourself. Budget time to relax outside.
Yeah.
Like my wife and I are talking about we want to get a camper because we want to be outside and do all the things and all that kind of stuff. And that's the whole goal is to live the way that you want to live.
Truly. Yes.
And it really does. Just talking to you and reading your bio and just kind of like thinking about how those things are the things we should be thinking, not just bank account. And whenever I go to Amazon, I know when my account's going to be able to fund what it's in my cart today. That's not what budgeting is about. It's about being able to live the life that you want to live in 20 and 30 and 40 years. And I think that's a lot. It's hard to think about that for some people because you're thinking about 20, 30, or 40 days when your rent's due in 21 days.
And
you're like,
that's another mental shift, which I would always like recommend for people to think outside of that. Like, so sometimes when I have individuals who think so little in the sense of like financial security, that's why I force them to do the affirmation budget. Like, I want you to think bigger because I need you to realistically get out of your own head of like what you see right now in your bank account. Right. Because that's not permanent. That's a temporary state.
It's in fluctuation all the time.
Yes.
A lot of times it's headed down, but so many people, and that's, I think that teaching people what, like outside's free. Outside is so free. You don't have to, and it not just in a metaphorical sense, but it's literally doesn't cost anything to be outside. And that's I think that kind of goes back to like figuring out how to plan for what you want and how to decide like what your future looks like. Do you do like workshops with people to teach them, or
I'm getting to the workshop element.
Okay.
I have been partnering with nonprofits and just bringing in the financial literacy elements into their organizations is what I have been doing. One thing, so I actually last year developed my first ebook, and my focus is titled "Rewiring Your Financial Mindset." Okay, and it's because in my research of doing everything, I realized by year 7, our financial mindset is already set. Oh, and so that is like a lot of like when you were talking about before, like it easily becomes a therapy session sometimes when you realize where somebody was at 7 years old. Yeah. Or where their family was sitting at, or what they were having to do, or what they were visualizing and seeing in their community space. And that's where like a lot of things kind of turn over into like, we need to talk deeper about this. We need to talk more about this. So it's not just the bare basic of your budget, but you budget this way because you don't even want to check your bank account. And so, I
have friends that was like, as long as I have enough money to buy McDonald's, I'm good.
Yes.
No. Yes. You're not.
Exactly. And that is And so I recently am engaged, and that was the thing that thank you. And that was one of our conversations. I'm like, so we're gonna get into like, I'm gonna start talking about credit, and we're gonna start doing this, we're gonna start doing that because I want a house, I need a new car, all these things, and
we can do this together a lot easier.
And everything. I will say the battle of planning a wedding and my budget mindset are at war right now, because they don't go hand in hand.
We went very cheap on the wedding. That was a big thing. We want an intimate kind of thing and put families together. And
we keep saying that, and but
it's hard. It's very hard when you're like the person that you've grown up with. Is like, you got married, like,
exactly.
Oh yeah, I forgot to. I just invite my mom, like. My dad.
Exactly. And that's why I'm like, we can just invite his side of the family and we can give the highlight film to my parents.
Who's that?
Exactly.
Is a Wild Walker alert?
Exactly.
That's
I'm
really
like, I'm
cool.
okay with it right now. Like, they can see the highlights. They're
That's
fine.
okay.
Everybody's traveling.
Everybody, that's what y'all do anyway. It's
Yes.
highlights on the phone.
Yeah.
What do you think is your, at 45 when you retire, what's going to happen?
The fun.
Okay. Where's your first trip?
Probably Bali.
Okay.
That is because I feel like it's been on my list forever before I even met my fiance.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like, it's in reach. I'm like, I want to do this. And and this also want to do it before we have kids and all that thing.
right.
So right now it's just my dog and
Yeah.
that's it. So I want to take full advantage. And cause my parents, they didn't go out of the country until pretty much we were here.
So y'all,
And
So-
then, and the first time we went to Canada, my dad had his whole van searched because I didn't have a passport. So, so these are things that like, we couldn't go out of the country with my dad because the little things like that. And so, yeah,
that's cool.
I would say, as a new dad, get a passport early.
Oh,
It's worth
we
it.
already talked about
It's
it. We were up for a corporate speaking job in St. Martin.
nice.
And we didn't get it, thankfully, because the passport would have taken a minute.
It's a thing.
Is there a message that you leave people with when you like feel like you completed your work?
Just the element of being confident in your finances. Being able to knowing that like we can walk away and we're fine. Sometimes I just got a message from somebody I had budgeting calls with like 5 years ago, and she's like, "Well, things have changed now. I would love to have another call with you." I'm like, like I would love to get updates. Like I became involved in your life. It was like I was involved very much in a thing at some point, and I'm like, this is kind of cool. Like I miss it. So I always feel like the element of confidence coming from your finances leads into every other part of your life being confident, because that mindset is like absolutely like, oh, if your finances are not part of the struggle, other things you can be more focused on and have your time and dedication to.
This
So,
huge thing, this
yeah.
big, huge dark cloud that sits over people. Imagine seeing some sunshine, and that's great. That brings the joy. And I think
And that's the other part is I want joy to come from what I do. And I don't want anybody to walk away with expectations of like still feeling drained, or the element of like, this is just another conversation of talking numbers. And like, even sometimes I surprise people like after just a consultation, I'm like, I thought we would have a call about numbers. I thought we were going to talk numbers this whole time. I'm like, no, I want to know like your goals. I genuinely want to know like what your plans are. Like, do you want to send your daughter to college? All right, that requires 529 account, or what, everything else. And so it's just the element of like, we talked about it. Now you're actually taking the actions to do it. So it's seeing the outcome also is like, oh, you've been good for 5 years. Cool. That's I love the fact you
did what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's great. Deahna, I really appreciate talking to you. This was great. I'm looking forward to seeing more about what you're working on and all your success stories, because I know they're coming.
Bigger and better.
Every time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
This
you.
was great.
I appreciate it.